Hey folks, welcome back to BCOR 360. I'm going to go over topic 1 with you, and that way you guys can maybe find some areas or focus on some things. These are just what I find important. They may or may not be on the exam, so definitely read everything, but I'm just going to kind of explain some things differently than the presentation videos where I go through the slides. So hopefully this is a little bit more freeform. That way it's easier for you guys to, see what's going on. So this, actually, let me put myself on the other side. So this is our textbook. Hopefully you guys have played around with it by now. If not, don't worry. Go ahead and pay attention to the, excuse me, to my first video where I kind of go over the course. And I also mentioned about the textbook. If you're not able to buy the textbook, for whatever reason, send me an email. You don't need to give a reason why. Just say that you'd like a free trial, and I'll send you an email back saying that I've granted the free trial. And you'll get an email from my educator with a password. Your username will be your Mix email account, and that way you guys don't fall behind just because of this class started in between paydays or whatever the situation may be. I've been there. I've done that. I know the feeling. So let's go ahead and go into topic 1. As you see here, we have topic 1, operations and supply chain management, the value creation engine. When you click into it, excuse me. All right, if it will go there, you land on the learning objectives page. So when you go scroll down, take a look at it, see what you think. These are what the textbook hopes you learn from your time here, or reading this. So I've already gone through these topics and kind of hit a few things. I want to point out, see these little check marks? Don't worry if you can't get every section to have a little check mark. The developers that coded the textbook or the software, some of them work, some of them don't. They basically appear after you've been there a certain amount of time on each section. So if they don't appear, don't worry about it. Just make sure you read the material. All right, so learning objectives, you guys can read that on your own. Introduction. So one of the biggest things about supply chain that is kind of like the overarching thing is this little display right here. You guys should be able to see that. Inputs, operations, outputs. So with this, you guys can think of it as inputs, let's say the ingredients that you're making for lunch. Let's say a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So you have your bread, you have your peanut butter, and you have your jelly. Well, go ahead and make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich out of that. That is your operation when you're actually doing it. You pull out the knife, you scoop out some jelly, you spread it out there, then you go for the peanut butter and you close the sandwich. That's an operation because the output is a sandwich. You're taking those inputs, the ingredients, doing something with them, a process, and then having an output, which is a sandwich. That is basically what we're doing in supply chain. We'll take raw goods, we'll do something to them, usually a manufacturing process, and we'll have an output of a product. So whether it's a cell phone or a pad of paper here, we have a lot of different things that will turn into what we're looking for. So we have to make sure our operations are sufficient and that we're getting the quality that we want out of that. So quality is so important that we're going to cover it in 3 different topics, different aspects of quality. But that's not until probably late next week if the schedule holds out. Input, operations, output. That is something that you'll need to know. Now, of course, there's a lot more. They talk about Tesla and stuff like that. If we go to 1.3 here, so we see all these different things. So one question that has stumped students is, when did good operations practice begin? And the answer, as it shows here in our textbook, is it's always been around. It's been around for a long time. So we have to think of it like that. From the dawn of civilization, the pyramids. The pyramids were about 4,500 years ago. The Great Wall of China, that's probably about 2,200 years ago. Think of those things. They've lasted this long. So they had to do it right for it to last this long. They got good materials, good high-quality materials. They constructed them. Yes, it wasn't with voluntary labor, but it was constructed very, very well, and it lasted the test of time. The pyramids, 4,500 years. The Great Wall of China, over 2,200 years. So we've been getting better over time. So now we're building skyscrapers. In Dubai, they have the tallest skyscraper in the world. Think about that. A pyramid is a couple hundred feet tall or so. I've never seen pyramids in person. I've only seen them on, the computer screen or in a book. But if you ever see them, they're not that tall. But they were still an engineering feat. The Great Wall of China spans thousands of miles, or at least hundreds of miles. These things are not something that was just done lately, like making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So these good operational practices have been with us since at least the pyramids, even before that, because it had to get up to that level before the pyramids. So let's see here. Globalization and e-commerce. That's another thing we'll talk about in here. Some charts, but globalization, the world is getting smaller because of the transportation methods we have nowadays. Excuse me there. So the world, it's nothing to have, let's say, a shipment done by air, and in 24 hours it's in the United States. It's nothing. You can send a package overnight between the countries for, let's say, $60, and it's around the world, or halfway around the world. Nothing like that happened years ago. So we're starting to look throughout the world for our supplies. It's not just the local area where we're looking for our supplies. Now we're looking at Asia, Europe, Africa. We're looking at all these different continents. Excuse me, this bronchitis is just sticking with me here. But by us being able to look this far out, we're able to produce different things that we might not have been able to if we only sourced, let's say, in the United States or within our own home country. We don't have everything here in the United States. We don't have, let's say, for example, diamonds. So where would we get diamonds if we didn't have our transportation methods? So globalization, we're able to get almost anything we need just by doing some research. E-commerce. Amazon is the number one e-commerce platform in the world. And with that, it's... You guys, if you have Amazon Prime, can get almost anything in 2 days. Almost anything. Amazon's goal is to have everything from A to Z. If you ever look, there's a little arrow that goes from the A to the Z in the Amazon logo. So everything from A to Z. So how is that going to impact other consumers? E-commerce is only growing. COVID basically expedited the e-commerce development like 15 years, 10 to 15 years. So that 2-year time span when everybody was forced, essentially, to go online for what they needed, has gotten people to adopt e-commerce. So people who said, I'll never use e-commerce, are now using e-commerce. Let's say, baby boomer generation is now using e-commerce. Grandparents are using it because that was how they got certain items that they couldn't get or they didn't want to leave their home for. But this does put a strain on the transportation side. So think of the UPS driver. They have to deliver all these small packages. That's a lot of packages to deliver. And especially because these packages, It's not like they're going the same route every day. They're going to the same houses or same businesses every day. They're going to different ones every day. Think about it. If you ordered a package, UPS guy is not coming to your house every day saying, "Yep, I got nothing for you." So they might stop at your neighbor. They might start down the street. They might not even come down your street, depending on what they have to deliver. And until your package is slated to be delivered, they don't come to your house. So we have to think about that with e-commerce. Moving on here. So under 1.4, we have this SCORE model here. So supply chain operations reference. It's a lot more complicated than this, but this is a simple version. We have an overall plan that's going across the top. This overall plan, and I wish I had a bigger mouse pointer, otherwise it looks so tiny. All right, but we have that plan. So when we identify a need that our company has, we have to either source it or buy or make it ourselves. So we have to really decide what we're going to do. In this, we can source the raw materials, make the product, and then deliver it onto our customer. But who knows if we're even capable of doing that? We might outsource that part and have it delivered to our customer, or delivered to our warehouse, and then we'll send the product on to our customer. It really depends, and we'll talk about these things as we progress through the chapters. But we also have the return. So we have this third line here where items get returned. Have you ever taken something back to the store? It's as simple as that. It goes from you, let's say, to Walmart, Walmart to their distribution center onto, let's say, the manufacturer. So it's just a constant, bumps all the way back. And that's actually a specialty. Reverse logistics, it's called. So you can specialize in that if you choose to go down the supply chain route. And then we have this enable. So we have to enable all these steps, both directions, and we usually do that by information technology. We send information back and forth down the system. So that's essentially the SCORE model, or supply chain operations reference model. And you can see here that our company is in the middle. But then we have, our customers, they have their own version of this. Our suppliers have their own version. The supplier's supplier has their own version. The customer's customer has their own version. So our company is generally in the middle when we have a chart like this, and it's called the focal firm. That's because it's the focus of the chart. Now, you don't have to remember that. It's just something to know. But yeah, we're not unique in this. We have it, and our suppliers, our customers, and so on both sides have this. All right, let's see. What else was I going to mention? Let's see, 1.4. Design decisions and control decisions. Yeah, so you guys will see these ovals periodically through the rest of it. And we're going to talk about each one of these. So design decisions, think about designing things like a product or the process that is going to make that product. We have to design that. Maybe not us specifically, supply chain, but maybe an industrial engineer or a manufacturing expert will do that. But we're going to have some input in there because the process might necessitate a change in the product's design. Because maybe manufacturing can't make that shape or do a certain step. So we redesign the product to make it easier to make. Let's see, facility layout. So that's a big one. You want to have raw goods coming in one side and finished goods leaving through another way. That way, nothing is crossing. It's going a flow through the structure. The location. In topic 9, we'll talk about location. So where do we put our facilities? Why does Amazon put a fulfillment center in a certain location? There's several ways of calculating this, and I'll teach you guys the center of gravity analysis, which is a pretty simple way of doing it. And it's by no means the only way to do it. It's only one tool to help inform your decision. Because we have to think of other things too, like, let's say, taxes, property cost, construction cost? Is there a workforce that can do the work that we need them to do? Are they educated to a level where they can do that work? So if you're just doing assembly line work, you don't need those people to be as educated. Maybe high school diplomas are good enough, or GEDs. But if you're looking for, let's say, since we had COVID, a vaccine manufacturing, you probably want those people to have a little bit more education, maybe a bachelor's degree, maybe a master's degree, to do that kind of work. So there's all sorts of decisions that go into thinking about where a facility should be located. Control decisions, we'll talk about those too. Forecasting, you guys have done a forecast. You might have forecast how long it's going to take you to complete your degree, or trying to forecast your grade at the end of the semester based on certain factors that you are aware of. Well, we do the same thing. We usually do it with inventory based on customer demand. But we'll also talk about inventory, trying to figure out how much inventory we should have, what our reorder point is, how much safety stock should we have, all this kind of thing. Scheduling, trying to figure out when we should make things. When should we start making product A and then switch over to product B? We're going to have to look at our inventory. We're going to have to look at forecasting and figure these things out. And then quality. I keep mentioning quality, but it's 3 topics in this book. So we're going to be talking quite a bit about quality. And because we're kind of slamming through this material, hopefully you guys will pick up some of it. I understand you guys might not want to be in this class in the first place, but it's a core course. The college has decided you guys must take this course. I'm sorry for that. That's not my call. I was just slated to teach it to you guys. But that's more of a dean's office type decision. I'm just down here in the trenches with you guys. But quality, we have to make sure our products and our services have the proper quality. So the text will dive deeper into each one of these, so I don't want to give away too much, but let's move on to topic 1.5 here. So a supply chain. We can look at a supply chain and see different parts of it just by identifying different companies and so on. So like, for example, this thing right here, we have a focal firm. Remember that just a few minutes ago? That's the focus that we're looking at. So here we have a hospitality company and a cereal maker. Because we're focusing on this, that's where we make the line between downstream and upstream. So upstream is our suppliers that provide us material. So the material is coming to us from the upstream. The downstream is going towards the customer. The whole system is moving towards the customer. So that's one way to understand upstream, downstream. But it's from our point of view. So when you look at this, the first tier supplier is upstream from us, but the downstream first tier customer is down from us, closer to the customer. So like it says, hotel brand. So if we have Hilton as a hospitality company, we have the Hilton hotels, we have Hampton Inn and Suites, and so on and so forth. So we have that. The leisure traveler and business traveler are there that would possibly use these brands. You could argue that there should be the websites that allow you, like the booking websites, let's say Kayak, Priceline, all these other ones, to book your hotels. So there's different ways to look at this. But here we see there's a temporary service, a general contractor, mattress supplier, food services. So we've identified major areas, and then we can look at general contractor and go from there. So who supplies a general contractor? Well, there's a cement contractor. Who supplies a cement contractor? Well, it's a sand and rock quarry. Who supplies a sand and rock quarry? Well, it's a quarry. They're actually pulling it out of the ground. So there's really, I don't know, maybe you can say Mother Nature, God, whatever phrasing you want to use, provided it to the sand quarry. But, we can keep going. I mean, if we went the other direction, the framing contractor to the lumber provider to the mill, well, the mill had to get that wood from, let's say, a forestry company that owned the land where those trees grew, right? And where did that land come from? Well, that company probably bought the land from somebody else, and then it got filed with the county that the ownership changed and all that. So, I mean, we can probably keep going, but we really don't need to go that far, you know. But we should be aware of who's supplying us. So let's take a quick look at that cereal maker. I know I'm focusing on this a little bit, probably more than I should, but it should come in when I start to talk about 1.7. So we have a cereal maker. Most, if not all, cereal comes in a bag, right? So that bag had to come from somebody. Here it's a chemical processor. Well, the chemical made the plastic to make the bag. So we have the logic there. But what makes that chemical that makes it into plastic? Well, it's oil or a hydrocarbon. Well, that oil company had to get the oil from somewhere, probably a oil refinery. And then that refinery got it from some oil company that actually, pumped it out of the ground. But what if, well, right now, fuel prices are going through the roof. I think it's like $4.25 where I'm at. At least that's what I paid the other day, $4.25. Well, how is that increase in oil prices going to impact the chemical processor and then you when you buy those bags from the bag producer? So you need to keep an eye out there to see what's going on, right? So, yeah. All right. So, kind of went too deep on there. You'll see it all again in the videos. And of course, at the bottom here, we have this dotted line, demand information. So we're consolidating demand from the customers, and product and service is going down towards the customer. So information is going upstream, products and services are going downstream. So yeah. All right. In here also is the bullwhip effect. So this one is sometimes tricky for people to understand, and I wish they reversed these images. So think about this. Your local grocery store decides to have a sale on Coca-Cola. I'm just picking something everybody probably knows. So Coca-Cola is on sale, let's say half off, just picking some number. There is probably going to be an increased demand for Coca-Cola from that store. So that store, if they thought well enough ahead, they probably placed a large order because they are expecting to sell through it. So they placed a large order with their next level up, which would be a distributor or a DC, distribution center, or something like that. So they place a larger than normal order up the chain. So you can see there's the solid line, that's like, let's say, the normal orders. And then we have the dotted line, which is the inventory. So when we look at our distribution center, that next one from the right, inventory almost hit zero, or did hit zero. So that distribution center is going to place a larger order with the manufacturer. And then the manufacturer is going to place an even larger order with the supplier. Let's say the plastic bottles, the cans, all this stuff that's needed to make the Coca-Cola product. The syrup for the actual drink itself, that kind of thing. All these things are, all these large orders that are progressively getting larger and larger and larger are because the retailer didn't communicate. They could have communicated ahead of time, let's say a month ahead of time, say, hey, I'm going to have a sale and I expect to be ordering this. So they could tell their distribution center, hey, I'm going to need another 500 2-liter bottles of Coca-Cola. That distribution center can take that into account when they place their order with the manufacturer. And that distribution center can tell the manufacturer beforehand, hey, I'm going to place a large order because I got one store that's going to do 500 more than usual. And they can keep communicating up the line. If they did that before that retailer did the sale, or before the retailer placed their order, there probably would not be a bullwhip effect. Communication is the key. So because communication didn't happen, we see a bullwhip effect. And that impacts more than just everybody up the chain. What about other retailers that were working with that distribution center? Or other distribution centers that were buying from that manufacturer? So communication is necessary when we're dealing with inventory, and especially ordering larger orders than what we think we need. So we factor in using safety stock to kind of cover these things, but you can never predict exactly what's going to happen. So it's basically what's called a sophisticated wild-ass guess. So you have a good idea, but you probably pad your numbers a little. So let's see here. Moving on. Value chain. The value chain. So every company every function within a company is trying to create value for the company. So executive management, research development, information technology, finance, marketing, and so on and so forth are all trying to create value. That's why we call it a value chain. So when we look at one, this is what we see. But when we put them together, it all interlocks right there. So it's kind of like I was mentioning with the, I forgot what it was called. Our focal firms in the middle, then we have our upstream and downstream. So that's the value chain. It's just every company has their own unique way of creating value. And so they're creating value for the customer next down, but also they have to create value for their supplier too. So just a couple ways to think about that. All right, 1.6, service. Not everybody's going to go into a manufacturing environment where they produce products. So we have services that are also part of supply chain. We look at them a little different because there's no physical product. So that's why we have this one chart here. Customer contact. So service is very high when it comes to interacting with the customer. If you make a product, you ship it to the store, and that's the end of dealing with a customer, unless they call and say, hey, it's broken or whatever. Customer service. But when you're in a service industry, such as hospitality, accounting, and a whole bunch of other ones, you're interacting with the customer, and the customer's experience is going to vary. You could do the same thing for one customer and then the next customer, the same exact thing, say the same exact words in the same exact tone, same pace, everything, because they had identical problems. And one customer is going to say, hey, that was a great experience. Another one might say that was a horrible experience. So it's very difficult to manage services because there's no tangible object with a service. Hospitality and tourism, basically it's the experience that the customer is having. That's hospitality and tourism, essentially. Now, yes, I'm not a hospitality and tourism guy, but that's how I see it. The experience. Accounting, is my taxes done right? Hopefully they were and I don't get audited. If they weren't right and I don't get audited, I'm probably not even going to worry about it. But, don't get audited. It's no fun. I've had it done once. For me, it was just easier to write a check saying, here's your money. Services can't be shipped. You can't put them in a box, hand them over to the post office or UPS or FedEx and ship it somewhere. You have to give it to them where they want it. It uses dentist office, a movie theater, restaurant, airplane. You're not getting a physical service or a physical product. You're getting a service. So you can't ship them, and they can't be inventoried. Think about your own ability. If you are an expert in, let's say, accounting, how do I inventory that? Do I just say there's one accountant? Or do I say that accountant has 40 hours a week times 52 weeks a year? Let's say 50 weeks because we got to factor in, let's say, some vacation time and holidays. We just can't do that because the accounting folks won't like it, because how do you do depreciation? and all the other things that comes with accounting. You guys probably have taken an accounting class by now, so you guys have a familiar sense of what accounting likes to see. But yeah, services cannot be inventoried. Can't ship them, can't inventory, and it's consistently difficult to manage, let's say, from a supply chain perspective. Products, though, you generally don't have contact with a customer as a company, and it's tangible. You have that physical product. Like my mouse right here is Logitech. I never contacted Logitech. I've no need to. I bought this through Amazon, so it doesn't matter to me that Logitech made it. It's a good mouse. I have two of them, actually. So anyway, let's see. That was 1.6. Let's go to 1.7. Scanning, environmental scanning. You guys already do this. So scanning, some say it's a lost art or it's a skill you need to develop. But there's two things to think about when it comes to scanning. We have passive scanning and then proactive scanning. Passive scanning is you're just sitting there and the information's coming to you. You're not doing anything to go seek out that information. Proactive, you're searching for that information. So you can think of it like you watch the nightly news, 10 o'clock news or whatever. You watching the news is passive. You actually doing research and going to different websites to find out news is proactive, because you're probably looking for something if you're going to different websites, right? So we want to look at that. And one thing you might not have known is this scanning is actually related to your SWOT analysis. So, because we can look inside our company and we do an analysis on our strengths and weaknesses, right? But when we look outside our company, we're looking for those opportunities and threats. So those external things, competitors, customers, suppliers, different technologies, the political landscape, economic, legal, socio-cultural, all these different things that we're looking at. So we have to actively go and get this information. Most of this information does not come to us in a passive manner. The socio-cultural part, you could read some website, but sometimes you just need to send somebody to go check out the culture of an area. Because you could think that a city, let's say Chicago, is, how all major cities are. But when you go to New York, it's a different culture there. When you go to Los Angeles, it's a different culture there. They're all major cities, but they're different cultures. So you need being aware of that. You have to go and find out that information. The economic, legal, political. Right now, the political situation in the United States is pretty crazy. Regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, or if you're in the middle, it's crazy. One side's blaming the other for this and that, and the other one's blaming them back for the other things. How's it going to go when it comes to November? It's anybody's game, really. I try to stay away from politics, to be honest. I'll read about politics, but yeah, I don't need to be involved with that. So kind of like those things. You don't talk about religion and politics at the dinner table, right? Or especially if you have a family gathering, because somebody's going to go home mad. So there's different ways to factor it out. Here's some bullet points that are questions to ask when you're thinking about all these different things. You guys can take a look at this in your own time, or you can pause the video and check it out. It's a pretty detailed list. You guys might not have seen something like this when you first learned about these analysis, let's say in a management class, but it's helpful. Let's see here. And I think, that is all I have for this topic. If you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to me. It's been about 34 minutes, going on 35. Send me an email if you guys have any questions. These quick check at the end of the topic, these are the quick checks for your assignments. So, which of the following companies made the advertising tagline, everyday low prices? Well, this one, it doesn't say Walmart, so it can't be Walmart, right? So you'll have to figure that out. All these answers are in the reading above on all the topics. So you get 2 chances to get as many points as you can on these. It's only out of 5 points for each one. So I recommend you do it once, see how you did, and then your second time, go check the answers. These are easy points. So don't submit it until you go and check the questions. So yeah. And make sure to do the written assignments. If you go down to the discussion and practice, I don't recall which one you guys are doing. I think it's number 4 here. Google, and then do a little bit of a write-up. So yeah, easy topic 1, just an overview of this course. Really, you kind of get a little bit of everything, and we'll dive deeper into other things. So I appreciate you guys taking the time out to watch this. Hopefully you made it to this point, and I look forward to seeing you in topic 2. All right, thanks guys.